Great piece today by Callie Calplan, though, in the morning news talking about Dorian Finney-Smith. I think the premise of her article is just that that Mavs actually did a good thing giving him his new contract at the All-Star break, because the way that he has been playing, he also would have, earned himself an even bigger raise. And, everybody on this Mavericks team is doing awesome. They're all overperforming. Maybe all of them should just wait to see what lays in the cards next, because, it's amazing. Dorian Finney-Smith had his career-high made threes the other night, 8 of 12. Kleba had that in the first series. Like, the way these guys are taking their game to the next level, it's inspiring. It is incredible. And I don't know, maybe Dorian Finney-Smith does have a little buyer's remorse on agreeing to that deal or whatever, but he's well compensated, and the Mavs have to be like thinking, all right, we got one. This will offset the extra money we got to give to Jalen Brunson for him betting on himself. And Brian, you just can't say enough about how these guys have grown in this first year under Jason Kidd. It's been a phenomenal job.
No, and I think that's where, my real comparisons are, look what the Cowboys were able to do defensively with Dan Quinn. All of a sudden, these coaches like to tell us, hey, it's our job to put players in position to make plays or get the most out of these players. And Jason Kidd has done a great job of getting the most out of his players.
Yeah.
There was so much, with so much going on with Rick Carlisle, the front office and all that.
And they'd already done a great job with Doe Doe. They had. Rick and that staff made him a legit player. Jason Kidd's making him like legit premium role player possibly, which is exceptional.
He, an undrafted player. And that just goes to show you, though, how things can work out for you at times.
Yeah.
Your evaluation, you have an idea of what the player, but it also takes, the player was always going to work hard. Was he always the most talented player? No. But, there's things that you can do with Doe Doe defensively. There's things you could do with him with a shot that makes a difference in these games.
Big time.
And I feel like the Mavs staff, and you mentioned with Rick Carlisle, you got to give them some credit. But I think that Jason Kidd has elevated the game of a lot of these guys.
What do you think about the players in these situations? For me, a lot of players who went by Kleba and Dorian Finney-Smith's measurables or resume, if they get drafted onto some teams, they don't get enough experience. They don't play 75 games in a year over a 5 or 6 year period. They're on the bench, and they never, but you give talented players just the opportunity, the special opportunity that was the end of Dirk's career. Really? Hey, we're not really going for it and we're not really rebuilding. So you have a coach who's has high expectations and standards, and you're in a winning atmosphere and you're going to be pressed to perform. But at the same time, it's not a team that's going out and signing long-term deals with anybody because they have an eye on the future. It was the perfect situation. How often do you think careers, big successful careers happen where in other situations they would have just slipped through the cracks?
Matt, it's a really good question, because to me, that's, sometimes you get in a situation where you kind of have an idea what the player is, but you have to have that player on the team because it makes up for some of the other shortcomings that you have. Yeah. That you're like, hey, we want to go out and sign, we want to go out and we want to get better and stuff. But maybe some of the other moves you made, you're forced to try and develop guys like a Doe Doe.
Yeah.
You're forced to listen, we know he's undrafted. We know he has some limitations, but
the patience paid off big time.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And it might have been because you didn't have the superstar players.
Yeah.
That you
had the time to let it go.
You had the time to let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we like the guy.
Exactly.
He's got a terrific athletic body for playing the sport. We just need to get his shot to fall.
Right.
And now that his shot started to fall, now he's added things like confidence and the ability to make a quicker decision.
Right.
He obviously locked up Donovan Mitchell in round 1. That was a big part of that victory.
Yeah. He is not afraid to take on the other team's biggest star.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do because no one has ever given him no one's ever said, okay, you go out and do this and you go out and do that. And just recently, though, this coaching staff has asked him to shoot more. Mm-hmm. They've asked him. It's like, listen, you used to be a guy that, I was listening and reading and hearing people talk about Doe Doe and his development. It really has been about his ability to take those shots and to knock them down. And now it's not like, okay, you only shoot as a last resort. Now they're encouraging him to, as soon as he gets the ball. And you see what Luka was doing the other day.
Yeah.
Luka knew he was standing off in that corner. Luka got the penetration, got the kick, and Doe Doe's knocking down those shots. And so, what he's going to do is by making shots like that, it is going to force Phoenix to have to play him a different way. Or they might, what they might say is like, no, you know what? You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough to knock down shots. We feel like that you are more like the guy that's shot 4 for 11 the previous game instead of the guy that shot 8 for 12.
Yeah, or shot,
or 2 for 6.
He started his career significantly worse.
Yeah.
Okay, truckwreck.com fan text. The 469 has a great comp because we asked, how good do you think Dorian Finney-Smith can be? He says, I believe Finney-Smith is a Bruce Bowen comparison. Just needed the opportunity to play that role. And that's a good one because by the time Bruce Bowen was done playing, he was a crucial part of everything the San Antonio Spurs were doing. He was a dirty player. Hopefully Dorian Finney-Smith doesn't have to do that very often. But, if you have to, we'll look the other way, as long as you get the job done. 214, no one's talking about the fact Brunson was offered the same. They wanted a contract in January. Mavs wanted to wait until the trade deadline. Yeah, and Brunson decided to bet on himself, even though it went from 4-55, I think 4-80. Was around the ballpark they were talking about. And, I think he's going to make it to 4-100, maybe even more if they finish off the Suns. Anyway, a couple of highlights here from this Callie Calplan story in the morning news. You can read the whole thing if you want. I picked out a couple of highlights. But the truckwreck.com fan text is open. The Twitch Twillo Lounge is open over there for you. If you want to give feedback on what you think about the season Dorian Finney-Smith is putting together here. One part of the story here, he recalled former coach Rick Carlisle's advice years ago when Finney-Smith was a bottom-of-the-roster undrafted newcomer who had to reconfigure his shooting mechanics and technique during his first few NBA seasons. I mean, the guy couldn't dribble, the guy couldn't pass, the guy couldn't shoot, but he moves like a basketball player, like a really, really good one. And they're thinking, well, let's see if we can get a shot going and make him a 3-and-D guy. When Finney-Smith received playing time during those rebuilding years, Carlisle would often tell him, don't shoot threes unless it's late in the shot clock.
Yeah, there you go.
That was his marching orders. Now they're telling me to shoot it as soon as I get a good look. It's just a test to the work I put in and the test to the work everybody on the team sees me put in. And there's a bunch of other stories, little anecdotal stuff in here about just how he's all about hard work and being super low key. Like when he went off and had a career high, he went home and supervised his daughter's slumber party. It was a birthday party.
There you go.
Just the whole thing of when you see an interview with a guy and he's all quiet and he says he doesn't like to stick out from the crowd. He just wants to do his job. That's kind of what the story was all about. Like just that's him, 24/7, 365. And I just love how Dorian figured it out. I think huge props to Jason Kidd have to be there. And I guess to the front office, Mark Cuban, I guess, some people hate to give the man credit, but for being in charge of personnel and being part of the system that found the talent and continued to invest in him, and now he's actually turning into something. We just got to hope Dorian does it again. Sometimes a guy stays hot.